God kväll vänner och shalom. Det är profetisk uppdatering måndag 20 november 2023. Jag såg en intervju idag från Israel där en Israel säger att han kallar det här kriget för enhetens krig. Därför att israelerna har aldrig varit så eniga som nu, sa han. Och detsamma har vi hört från flera andra. Och det är ju positivt. Det kommer både positiva och negativa nyheter naturligtvis. Och först ett par positiva nyheter från Telegram och Amir Tsarfati. Lettlands president på solidaritetsbesök i Israel. Lettlands president Edgars Rinkevich anlände idag på ett solidaritetsbesök till Israel och träffade landets president Itzhak Herzog. Den lettiska presidenten sa under sitt möte med Herzog: "Vi stöder Israels rätt att strida, vi stöder också och vi kommer att försöka göra vårt bästa för att se till att alla som hålls som gisslan friges. Detta inbegriper att arbeta med det internationella samfundet och utöva påtryckningar. Naturligtvis anser vi också att den situation som Israel står inför är mycket farlig, inte bara för ert land, för er region utan faktiskt också för planeten. Jag hoppas att alla gisslan kommer att släppas mycket snart. Jag hoppas att vi också kommer att få se mer stöd och solidaritet med Israel från det internationella samfundet. Lettland blev självständigt efter upplösningen av det kommunistiska Sovjetunionen 1991 och har idag cirka 2 miljoner invånare." En annan nyhet på Telegram: ytterligare en terroristmoské förstördes på Gazaremsan och antalet närmar sig 100. Moskéerna är terroristernas samlingspunkt, en ingång till tunnlarna och ett vapenförråd. Detta är också en varning till moskéerna i Judeen och Samarien. På bilden här kan ni se vad man hittar i moskéer i Gaza. Ja, det kan man undra, vem vet vad som finns i moskéer i Sverige? Vi skulle behöva IDF hit. En artikel idag av Sofie Lövenmark skriver i Expressen: "Tystnaden om de nya moskéerna är farlig." Och jag läser här bara ett utdrag därifrån artikeln. Den ligger på hemsidan om ni vill läsa hela. Det handlar om mosképrojektet Vi mår bra. Det startade som en kampanj i början av förra året och har som mål att bygga en ny moské i Sverige varje månad. När projektet är färdigt ska varje svensk stad ha minst en moské, är tanken. När tidningen Smålänningen i augusti skrev om att flera miljoner hade samlats in till en moské i Ljungby intervjuades församlingens ordförande Abdelak Lahouaichiri. Han berättade att de nuvarande lokalerna saknade utrymme för kvinnor och plats för undervisning i arabiska. Intervjun ger ett trevligt intryck av verksamheten, men den som vill veta mer om ordförandens värderingar kan gå tillbaka till en intervju som han gjorde i samma tidning 7 år tidigare. Då sa han att judarna styr världen och Sverige och att judarna agerar värre än Hitler. Uttalandena kritiserades av SKMA som grovt antisemitiska och farliga. Idag, 7 år senare, fullständigt dryper hans sociala medier av tal och klipp från Hamas-ledare, stöd till terrorgrupper och hyllningar av terrorattackerna mot Israel med fraser som "Detta är en dag av glädje och lycka. Den som inte gläds denna dag över Mujahidens seger är en hycklare." Exemplet med Ljungby-ordföranden belyser på ett bra sätt vilka risker det innebär för samhället att det omfattande mosképrojektet inte diskuteras offentligt. Det visar också att frågan om islamism inte längre är ett isolerat storstadsfenomen utan något som berör hela landet. Slutcitat. Ja. Med de uttalanden från den här muslimen, med tanke på vad man hittar i Gaza, så kan man ju undra vad man skulle kunna hitta i moskéer i Sverige. den dagen det finns moskéer som de säger i varenda samhälle och varenda stad. Det är ganska otäck framtidsbild. Världen idag skriver en artikel: palestinsk ambassadör sprider konspirationsteorier om Israel. I en intervju med Dagens Nyheter anklagar Palestinas ambassadör Rola Al-Mahaisen Israel för att vara en terroriststat samt påstår att Israel möjligen tillät Hamas terrorattack i syfte att motivera bombning av Gaza. Och de här lögnerna, de sprids av antisemiter och nynazister och islamister, lögnhalsar som de är. Och samma sataniska lögner sprider sajten vaken.se, som borde heta sover.se eller något värre. Jag råder er att totalt bojkotta den sajten om ni inte redan har gjort det. Om ni inte har varit där så bryr er inte om den sajten. Jag hoppas att den spärras och tystas för gott. En annan nyhet i Aftonbladet, det var egentligen bara en bild och en rubrik: ryssar rädda för ny järnridå. Och det fick mig naturligtvis att tänka på David Wilkerson när han var någonstans i närheten, kanske var det Vitryssland eller någonstans där, och predikade. Och under predikan så stod han och grät. Det fanns på video, detta finns säkert fortfarande på nätet någonstans. Han gråter därför att han ser profetiskt att det kommer en ny järnridå. Och han varnar där och han har väldigt nöd över detta. Och han gråter faktiskt där när han ser detta och profeterar detta. Ja, men Gud verkar, ingen järnridå kan hindra Guds verk. Det är det vi ska påminna oss om också. Jag skrev så här för ett tag sedan på Facebook: jag förstår inte kristna som inte vill tala om att Gud ska döma världen. Skulle människor som våldtar, torterar och utför fruktansvärd ondska gå fria? När jag älskar Guds rättfärdiga domar. Om dessa kommer undan här i livet så kommer de inte undan i den yttersta domen. Förutom det behöver vi alla inse att vi är beroende av Guds förlåtelse och frälsning, Jesu rättfärdighet som en gåva. Endast Jesus är perfekt och syndfri, ingen annan. Romarbrevet 5 och vers 7 vill jag läsa från: ty om en endas fall gjorde att döden fick herravälde genom denne ende, och det var ju Adam det syftar på, hur mycket mer ska då inte de som mottar den överflödande nåden och rättfärdighetens gåva regera i liv genom denne ende, Jesus Kristus, eller Jesus Messias. Lägg märke till att det står de som mottar, de som tar emot alltså. Det gäller inte alla, det gäller alla som tar emot Guds frälsning i Jesus Kristus. Det är mycket noga, för universalister påstår ju att alla blir frälsta, och det är inte sant. De brukar förvrida bibelord för att få det att passa deras lära, men det ska vi se upp med. Däremot erbjuds alla människor denna frälsning. Vers 18, alltså liksom en endas fall ledde det fördömelse för alla människor, så har en endas rättfärdighet för alla människor lett till en frikännande dom som leder till liv. Och som vi läste innan då, de som mottar den frälsningen som ger frikännande dom. Liksom de många stod som syndare på grund av en enda människas olydnad, så skulle också de många stå som rättfärdiga på grund av den endes lydnad. Ja, så är det. Och det finns åtskilliga psalmer där man älskar Guds dom, man väntar efter Guds domar. För Gud dömer rättvis, han är en absolut rättvis domare. Det är någonting att se fram emot. Nu kommer en video här med Amir Tsarfati. Och det är del 2 av Illuminati och en världsregering. Heter den väl? Det är Illuminati and the One World Government. Så heter den, del 2. Så jag tackar för mig, önskar er Guds välsignelse och shalom.
Not made it alive, and they lost all of their possessions because they gave it to the Templars, remember? Their families could not enjoy it. And therefore, they became even more rich, super rich. They were the most powerful organization in the world of that time, controlling tons of land and properties in Europe that even the Pope was afraid of them. And I want you to know that at some point, whether it was from the very beginning, they somehow went astray. They started teaching themselves Gnosticism, which means Satan created the world, Kabbalah, and they were even following a new group of Muslims called the Assassins, Hashashins. Why? Because they were smoking hashish. I'm not joking. Now, that group of Muslims was so ruthless, they used to kill any political opponents, and that's how the word to assassin came to the world. And so, Knight Templars are becoming violent, they become Luciferians, and they become degraded and, in fact, in the year 1307, King of France, Philip IV, what he did, he rounded all of them, and the knights confessed to a variety of notorious crimes and admitted to taking blasphemous oaths against Jesus Christ upon admission into the order. They said that they had been shown the cross of which was the figure of Christ, and they had been asked whether they believe in him, and when they answered yes, they were told in some cases that this was wrong, that because he was not God, because he is a false prophet. Some added that they were actually shown an idol that looks like a goat, big head with a beard, and they were told, this is your God. Others said that they were shown the crucifix and they were ordered to spit at it, and others even said to urinate at it or on it. Now, if that's not enough, you need to understand that some added later on that all who confessed declared that they had been ordered to spit on the crucifix, and very many, they had received the injunction of commit obscenities and to practice unnatural vice. Some said that on their refusal to carry out their orders, they had been threatened with imprisonment. In fact, the more people coming to confess, the more horrific it was. They were actually commending their people who wanted to be members to have sodomy, to have homosexual relationship in front of everyone, to prove that they are worthy of becoming Knights Templar. They were so off. And before so many witnesses, King Philip said, it is wrong, I'm banning them. But the Pope didn't want to listen. Pope Clement V refused to respond to the charges and the confessions of the Templars until the pressure was so enormous that due to the mounting pressure, what happened is he summoned 72 people, and he questioned all of them, and before these many witnesses, the Templars admitted their crimes and previously confessed during the trials by Philip, and what happened is they were burned alive on a stake. But don't forget, that is not the end, because following the death of their leader, Monsieur de Mulay, the Templars found refuge in Portugal under King Denis II, who became their protector. And so, now, the Illuminati, those who were enlightened, those who knew better, those who worship another God, those who worship Satan to be their God, are not allowed to be shown publicly. They went underground. So what they did, they created a faked mythology, some sort of a story, in order to test the ground. This is a well-calculated move by that secret order that allowed them to monitor Europe's openness to the occult. So what they did, the story elaborates on how Mr. Christian Rosenkreuz is the Rose Cross. Look, they say that he traveled to Syria and Egypt to study the occult, and after learning from all the great masters of the occult philosophy in the Middle East and Northern Africa, he returned to Europe to spread his enlightenment throughout the continent, but he was unfavorably received, and then he returned home to Germany, where he had hoped to establish a society. And it goes on and on and on until the 18th century. The 18th century is actually the century of, or the era of the Enlightenment. Go to the books, go to the encyclopedia. 18th century, you will see the era of enlightenment. Again, enlightenment. Again, light. Again, a false light. People were running to universities. People were learning the occult. People were absorbing anything that they could find. And that is the Illuminati in the 18th century. And during that time, something horrible happened. Are you ready for that? Two people born 2 different years in Germany, one in Frankfurt, one in Ingolstadt in Germany. It's amazing how much Germany pumped so much evil at that time in history. And I want you to understand that at that time, there was a Jewish man called Amschel Moses Bauer. Mr. Bauer was so humiliated by the German non-Jews. Jews at that time were not even allowed to walk freely with every other person. Whenever a Gentile came, they had to clear the road to allow him to walk first. And then he was so humiliated that he promised that when the day comes, he will become so wealthy that they will serve him. And it's interesting because Amschel Bauer opened in 1743 a coin shop for rare coins in Frankfurt, Germany. And right above his store, he put a big shield of the Roman eagle, and it was a red shield. And it was known to be the Red Shield firm. Rothschild in German, the Rothschild. That's how they began. Mr. Amschel Moses Bauer. Of course, he died, but not before that. His son, Meyer Amschel Bauer, was able to study, to be excellent, to be super in his intelligence. You know, Jewish people in those days were so smart. They had to be because they were a minority. They were afraid that they would be stepped on by all the others. In order to survive, they had to show excellence. And he studied, and he was an excellent person. And he went up in the ladder, so much so that some of the people that were hiring him actually introduced him to the king of Germany of that time and to the kings of Europe of that time. And he befriended them, and he started working with them to create a banking system, world banking system, and he learned the art of making money and mostly loaning money to people. But then he realized that loaning money to the individual is not making much money. Actually, loaning money to governments, to leaders, that's the big money. And that's how he started. And when he had acquired enough money, he went back to Frankfurt and he bought his father's shop, and he called himself from now on Mr. Meyer Rothschild. And that's how the Rothschild family was born. Bear in mind, they had no relations to their Jewish roots. They never counted themselves Jews at that time. Mr. Meyer was so enlightened that he never counted himself a Jew. He counted himself illuminated. He counted himself as a servant of Satan to bring about world domination and one world government. He could care less if the Jews are going to die because of it or not. He could care less what the consequences on the... That's why Jesus said, by the way, in Revelation chapter 3, it says, be aware of those who say that they are Jews, but they're actually not. They are the synagogue of Satan, the Bible says. And so you need to understand that we have Meyer Rothschild, determined to take over the world with his wealth. By the way, he gave birth, not him, his wife, to 5 sons, and he placed every son in a different city in Europe. One went to Vienna, one went to London, one went to Naples, and of course, one was in Paris, and he himself stayed in Frankfurt. And the interesting thing about it is that those sons even were better than their father in making money. And I'll teach you how. But before that, I want you to know that before he died, he made sure that his plan will be carried out by someone who's very sophisticated. At the time, in February 6, 1748, Mr. Adam Weishaupt was born in Ingolstadt, Bavaria. Influenced by the French philosopher Voltaire, he actually started looking into the occult, and he said in 1776, he founded the first Illuminati order. Up until now, all the Illuminati were never calling themselves Illuminati. They were just illuminated, they were just enlightened, but they never used the word Illuminati. In 1776, on May 1st, the first time an organization calls himself officially Illuminati and opened his first lodge. And Mr. Meyer Rothschild is giving him the money and is sitting with him and plotting how his money and this man's teaching are going somehow to take over the whole world. Mr. Hauptstadt was actually a Jesuit priest who was actually leaving his faith in God and ready to take over the world because of his influence by the occult. And somehow, at some point, the messenger that carried the secret writings of the Illuminati died along the way, and the documents were found, and they were published, and the whole world were roaring because of the fact that there is a group of people that is now plotting to take over the world. Now Meyer, Rothschild, and Hauptstadt actually knew that they cannot really write who they are. They wanted to disguise as if it's a Jewish plot to take over the world, and they wrote it in a way that whoever finds it will actually accuse the Jews for that. And that is exactly what happened. Jewish people were accused all around Western and Eastern Europe, and thousands of them died in attacks. Now, before he died, Mr. Rothschild told his son three things. One, whenever you have a job, an important position in our family's business, only you should be there. Don't let any foreigner take that position. If your daughter is marrying someone else, he cannot be in that position. Only direct bloodline. Second, he told them, marry second-degree cousins. Don't intermarry with others. We need to keep the wealth within our own bloodline. Third, he said, never give any account to anyone about what you have and how much you have. Up until today, there is no document that specifies how much the Rothschild family really owns. They all keep his commandments very well. And so, Mr. Meyer Rothschild died, and now his sons are all over Europe. But there's only one problem. They're all over France, all over Germany, all over England, all over Belgium, all over. Only the Russians are not allowing them a footstep in their territory. That's why the Rothschilds, with the Illuminati, of course, the Illuminati right now, are now plotting to kick this Tsar of Russia out. How? You just have to train some people with the new theory called what? Marxism. It's called what? Communism, and then you send them in and a revolution takes place and the Tsar is out. And now we control that part also. You must understand, the Illuminati is controlling the world in a way that that is not really showing any allegiance, they're not somehow loyal to a particular thing. For them, it's a double talk. For them, every force tends to have an opposite counterforce. The conflict between the two results in a new situation. You see, every thesis must have an antithesis, and that brings the synthesis. You understand that? And then, of course, that's how the synthesis is helping them. The insertion, you have to understand, this is a double talk and a double think. That's how they do. They feed the world wealth and they feed the communists, and at the same time they can oppress these and oppress those and make sure there are wars, and they give money to this side of the war. They gave money to the French Revolution, they gave money to the Civil War in America, they gave money to both sides in World War I, they gave money to both sides on World War II, they gave money to both sides in the Cold War. They always supported two sides because it served their interests. It is the thesis and the antithesis, and they wanted the synthesis. And remember that.